everybody, it's Romania Black, and I'm super excited today because not only are we on Volume 7 of Heaven Official's Blessing, but also I got a package in the mail, and I think I know what it is. I do believe that this may be Volume 8, and I have been so good this time about not seeing the cover, no spoilers, nothing. So excited. So I'm going to get to open this up and see with you all what's inside of it. I have talked to the mods, and they have warned me that there are a lot of... I ordered the special edition because go big or go home, right? So I ordered the special edition, and I know there's some extras, but I've been told some of the extras may be spoilery. So to be safe, I was told that anything that comes outside of the package is not spoilery. So I'm like, okay, cool. But I've been told there's some inserts that are. So I'm going to put the inserts aside. I have a shelf over there. Y'all can't see it, but there's a shelf over there that I've got some stuff stacked up. I'm going to put the inserts over on the shelf where I won't see them because I don't go over there often unless I'm getting something off the shelf to read. So I'm going to put them over there, and then when we're finished with Volume 8, we'll get to look at all the extra stuff that was inside the insert that I couldn't look at. But I think they said I'm safe to look at the stuff that's outside in the box when I open it, so that won't be a problem. But yeah, I'm pretty darn excited. So I've had this sitting on my shelf for about 3 days because I didn't have time to sit down and record this. So I'm so excited. But it's the final volume of Heaven Official's Blessing that I'm looking at. And I know I've got 2 weeks, this week and next week, until I get to it, but we were cutting it close. I was like, oh, we have this week and next week to finish Volume 7. And I was like, ooh, we're getting a little bit close to the wire. The closest we've been so far, but we made it. So, oh, and it's all nice and fancy. Oh my. There is plastic, but you get to see it before I do. Look at them! Oh, now that is a quintessential cover. I didn't know what I was going to expect for the final cover, but that is... Oh, I want to see. Is it an insert or is it the actual cover? Oh, I think it's the actual cover. The ring. The ring is up there in the corner. Oh, how dare you, MXTX? How dare you tease us with that this entire series? And the ring is up there. I mean, wedding ring. They're together. Is that what's signifying? Is it his ashes? We'll find out that volume, I'm sure. But I like this cover. I'm going to look at the, pull the plastic wrap off. Oh, yes. Pull the plastic wrap off. I mean, this is a quintessential cover. Look at that. It's them as a couple. It's the black, the red, and the white. Beautiful. Okay, so there is a little thing here, but I think I decided since it is separate, I'm going to set it aside and not look at it. And are there things inside? Are there things inside? Maybe not. Okay, there are things inside. So I'm going to, you all will see it here, pulling it out. Can't see it. It's got this and setting it with that. So that's what we're going to do. So I've changed my mind. I'm going to just hold all the extra stuff till we're finished with Volume 8. We've got this volume here. I'm going to ask Discord for the table of contents. They've been really kind with giving me the table of contents and blurring out the chapter titles, so I don't know. And I'll be organizing... I don't know yet how many weeks we'll spend with Volume 8, but it's going to start on Christmas Day, which is so exciting, right? Going to start on Christmas Day. Super excited about it. But yes, I'm so happy that we have this. This feels, how many pages is it? I'm just going to look at how many pages. There's a lot of glossary. There's only, oh man, there's only 320 pages. How heavy is Volume 7? 320 pages versus Volume 7 is 336. So Volume 8 may be the shortest volume, but maybe the thinnest volume of them all, but that means nothing because Book 4 was not very long, but it had enough in it, so you can't judge a book by its length. And that applies to many things. But yes, okay, fair. So I'm going to put this back on the shelf. I am going to take all of the extras and not look at them and put them back on my shelf. There's a little piece of sticky here, so I'm getting it off of that. So I'm going to take my sandwiched, you can see I can't see either side, my sandwiched pile of goodies, and I'm going to set them on the shelf, and that will be that. So how exciting. All right, so that's taken care of. That's back on the shelf, and we're back to talk about some comments before starting this chapter set. I am really sad that the volumes have gotten shorter and shorter these last few times, but I mean, the content is so good. It's not that I'm disappointed at the content. The content's amazing. It's just I want more Heaven Official's Blessing, and MXTX is like, let's wrap this up. But I'll also have, at the end of this, the extended edition, the edits, the additions, and stuff that we're going to go over once I'm finished with the volume, so that'll be exciting. I'll probably talk about that as we get into Volume 8, but how I'm going to do that, I mean. But we still have to get through these comments, and we're going to be reading chapters 223 to 225 today, the second to last set for Volume 7. Volume 7 has flown by. Volume 7 has been insanely fast. It's like we got done with Volume 6 was like a nightmare. It was so sad. And then Volume 7 has just gone, boop, done. I'm like, where did the time go? How have we've been through 7 weeks already. Where did that time go? I don't know. It just feels like we've flown through this volume. It's been insane. So yeah. So let's talk about some comments before we dive in. Unfortunately, we don't have a Manhwa chapter this week. I don't know what Billy is doing. They were supposed to have. I waited to read this chapter set because I wanted to wait on the Manhwa chapter, and I was like, I'll wait till Saturday. I'll hold off. Even when I got my volume in, I was like, I'll wait till Saturday. I'll hold off. I was being super patient. And then there was nothing. There was no Manhwa chapter this weekend. And I'm like, okay. So I don't know when it's coming out. Maybe it'll be next weekend. Maybe it won't be. I don't know. So, I mean, I'm still going to look at the Manhwa chapters even if we get into Volume 8, but we don't have that many left before we're done technically with Volume 2's stuff and we get into Book 2. So, I don't know. I don't know what Billy's doing. I tried to ask Discord and they were like, we don't know either. So that's kind of where we're at. But let's talk about some of the comments, shall we? Couscous brought up something really, really good. That chapters 32 and 34, they noted, like way back in Volume 1, that the Great Martial Hall, chapters 32 and 32 through 34 were called the Great Martial Hall. Crown Prince meets Crown Prince. And the funny thing is that, yes, that is referring to Xie Lian meeting Lan Chu, who is the Crown Prince of Yong'an. But for us, the audience, I mean, it's not the first time Xie Lian has met Jun Wu, but for us, the audience, it is. And it's technically Xie Lian meeting the Crown Prince of Wuyong as well. So that's a really cool bit of foreshadowing. I'm like MXTX genius mode, like galaxy level brain. That's so freaking cool. Sarah Linda. I liked Sarah Linda's comment a lot because they were like, basically in order to be a Supreme Ghost, you have to have an oomph factor. You have to have charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent to be a Supreme Ghost. And we know Heshan has, well, here's the thing. Heshan has charisma. They were able to decapitate Jun Wu, or Xie Wudu. They were able to decapitate Xie Wudu. Lots of charisma needed to do that, and to also play all of the puppets and the Earthmaster. Charisma. Uniqueness, definitely. Nerve, takes a lot of nerve to be able to pretend to be the best friend of somebody that you hate. And then talent, of course. Wachong, charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent, no question. Jun Wu, aka Bai Wusheng, lots of charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent, especially that uniqueness, for sure, right? And lots of nerve and talent. But then Sarah Linda was like, does Qi-Rong have that factor? Can Qi-Rong become a Supreme Ghost? I'm like, Qi-Rong is unique, yes. Qi-Rong has nerve, definitely, to be eating people and being as gaudy as he is. Talent, it's a talent to be that annoying. But charisma, in the words of Jujubee, no, they're just unt. So I don't know. Maybe Qi-Rong has the factor to become a Supreme Ghost. Maybe not. I don't know. Qi-Rong as a Supreme Ghost is terrifying because we know that Bai Wusheng has, Bai Wusheng is terrifying, but they're kind of like have an agenda. And Huachong and Heshan are able to keep things under control. Qi-Rong as a Supreme, I don't know how they would have control. That seems like a lot. So I don't know if they're going to get to that point. I also like the idea that Sarah Linda called Xie Lian like a model with all of his accessories. He's got like Rui, the Brocade Immortal on right now. He's like going around with the ring. He's got all these accessories just walking around like, I'm fine. Even though half the accessories could kill him. Fun times. Lou commented that Book 2, I really liked this callback and comparison. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't think about that. But Lou was saying that back in Book 2, Xie Lian was holding up the statue for days it was technically in volume 3, and that it collapsed. And that is like a microcosm version of Jun Wu as the Prince of Wuyang holding up the bridge trying to get the people over into the heavenly realm. I was like, oh, what a comparison. I freaking love it. I was like, yes, please. And then they were talking about another reactor, and I feel like we've talked about this in the reactions and discussions, but they were pointing out another reactor had commented that Bai Wusheng wanted Xie Lian to, that they looked at it in a more positive light, that Bai Wusheng wanted Xie Lian to basically achieve what they hadn't, and that could prove that maybe if Xie Lian can save the other people, then so can Jun Wu. I would challenge that a little bit, though. I appreciate what Lou was trying to say, but I'm like, Bai Wusheng was also actively trying to disrupt and dismantle everything Xie Lian was doing. So Jun Wu may have wanted that for Xie Lian. Maybe. It's questionable at this point. But Bai Wusheng definitely did not. Bai Wusheng was like the shoulder devil being like, I'm going to wreck everything. And Jun Wu's like, but what if you could do it and you could prove me right? So I feel like it's very toxic and twisted. And maybe that was originally when Xie Lian first ascended the goal Jun Wu had, but I think it quickly became toxic and twisted and warped from that original intent. So that's just my view, though. I'm not MXTX. None of us are. So, you know, until MXTX tells us exactly what the meaning is, could be anything. And then Anime Annie pointed out that with Jun Wu versus Xie Lian's third path option, I really like the idea that we have the similarities between Jun Wu and Xie Lian with that third path, the Prince of Wuyang versus Xie Lian's options. I will say, though, Xie Lian's option for the third option was trying to not remove everyone from the situation and put them in this alternate place, but to try to remedy. So, again, I feel like Xie Lian, everything as crazy as Xie Lian's storyline has been, Jun Wu as the Prince of Wuyang kind of makes it pale in comparison, and that's kind of insane, right? And also explains why Jun Wu went off the deep end so much. Like the farther you climb up, the harder you're gonna fall, and the harder you're gonna hit rock bottom, and that has definitely been the case with Jun Wu when he was the Prince of Wuyang. And then SQQLBH314 said Jun Wu is probably a Gemini. I have lots of friends that are Geminis. So I know the stereotype of Geminis is that they're two-faced. That's the stereotype. But it would be kind of funny if Jun Wu was a Gemini. It would be kind of funny. I have lots of friends. I like Geminis, so I will say nothing bad about a Gemini, but I think that's funny. And then I really liked SQQLBH314's comment about Jun Wu lifting their head, or like holding their head in their hand throughout this entire novel. We've been thinking as the audience that they're just like, God, this heavenly realm is so frustrating. I don't know how to deal with this. But the reality could also be, as they pointed out, that it's the three faces on his head and he's using all this spiritual power to try to conceal them, that he's just like, it's just causing him a massive headache. Amazing. Amazing. I love that. That's so cool. So you all had some amazing like callbacks and things from the book that I had forgotten, that I was reading the comments this last week going, oh, amazing. I've been in awe. So y'all are amazing. Thank you for that. But I'm so excited to dive into these chapters, but I have no clue what it's going to give us. At this point, Pei Ming is being tempted by Bai Wusheng / Jun Wu, or technically Jun Wu. He's being tempted by him to go down and disrupt the array. And I'm like, but a part of me is like, Pei Ming wouldn't do that because Pei Ming knows about the Hualien ship. He's the captain of it. He wouldn't go disrupt that, right? Because he knows how much that means to Xie Lian. But then the other side of me is thinking, well, but Pei Ming supposedly doesn't realize how corrupt Jun Wu is, so he's like, sure, I'll go do that. And Xie Lian isn't saying anything because he doesn't want to get like stuff out in the open. So it's like, well, what do we do? So I don't know. I'm rooting for Pei Ming. I never thought I would say that in this series, but I'm rooting for Pei Ming, that he's gonna come out all right and he's gonna make the right decision. But so far, Jun Wu is kind of like, he was 0 for 1 with Yin Yu. We don't know the result of his conversation with Mu Qing, which worries me. Feng Xin, he's not really... Feng Xin's already got his stuff busy with Jianlan. Jun Wu doesn't even have to do anything over there. And it's like, okay, Pei Ming, are you going to be 0 for 2 with Pei Ming, or is Pei Ming going to come through? I feel like Mu Qing could be third time's a charm for Jun Wu, but we'll hold off. Someone in the comments said, you don't have any faith in Mu Qing, and I'm like, well, he hasn't exactly lent me to believe I should have faith in him, but... I could be pleasantly surprised. Who knows? But we're not going to waste any more time. We are going to dive right in and see what happens in chapters 223 to 225, pages 263 to 292 of Heaven Official's Blessing. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Chapter 223, Coiling and Encircling, Silver Butterflies and Blessings Lanterns Shield. Oh, okay, well, is that the lanterns that are right here? Is this what we're talking about, the blessing lanterns? Is that what this could be referring to? We're almost to the end of the novel. It would make sense, and I've been wondering what that has to do this entire time. And coiling and encircling sounds like something a snake does, which would tie to Jun Wu, but silver butterflies, I guess they can encircle as well. Xie Lian spoke up. General Pei, that array is for shielding against those resentful spirits that poured out from the kiln. Once it's broken, the human face disease will break out for the 3rd time, and it would probably bring disaster to the world and annihilate all that was living. Pei Ming rubbed his nose. Let me verify this. My lord didn't give me any other choice, right? Of course I did, Jun Wu said. If you descend, I will let you go. If you don't, I will let them go. Who's them? Shanji, Rong, Guang, and Kamo. The 3 ghosts on the side all flashed a green light from their eyes as if they were starving, and it was easy to imagine what they would do once they were released. Strangle him to death, scratch him to death, stab him to death, punch him to death, choose one or all. Jun Wu added, Little Pei is also here. I imagine you think very highly of this descendant of yours. After all, in order to keep him, you were willing to cover up his luring people to their deaths at Banyu Pass, and even planned to push this affair onto the heads of others. Having heard this, Rong Guang's grievance seemed to have rolled up anew. He cussed madly at Pei Ming for being a terrible friend, that he'd take his great-great-great-great-great-grandson over his brothers, and Shanji was also on the side, grumbling and griping some grievances. Pei Ming endured all these demonic noises encircling his head, and after much thought he sighed. Will my lord allow me to think more on this? My patience is limited, so I don't want to give you too much time, Jun Wu said. Just as he finished, delight suddenly appeared on the faces of those 3 ghosts. They could actually move now, and instantly they charged forward. Oh, the gates of the palace of Mingguang shut, and Xie Lian could hear tortured screaming from someone and something ripping and tearing coming from the inside. His face dropped and he cried, Oh, General Pei! Banyu! Pei Su's chopped liver. He wanted to go in to see, but Jun Wu's hand was still placed on his shoulder, and he forcibly pushed him down the other end of the street. Xie Lian kept looking back, but his body was not his own. He cried angrily, What are you planning? Next one, Jun Wu said. Next one? What next one? After making way for a bit, they stopped once again, and Xie Lian's breath was almost going to stop. Lan Chuanchu's palace of Taiwan. Why are we leaving Pei Ming? Go back! Go back! No! Qirong also came over the opposite end of the street with Guzi tucked under his arm. No! His expression refreshed and rejuvenated, looking like he just trampled all the major divine palaces and was very pleased with himself. He said, Why did you call me here? Jun Wu actually summoned Qirong to the palace of Taihua. Xie Lian felt a sense of foreboding and scolded, There's nothing to concern yourself with! Leave now! Qirong's face fell, and it looked as if he was just about to spit at Xie Lian when Jun Wu ordered, Go inside. Qirong was smiling in pleasure again. Your words don't matter here. Then he went inside with his head raised and his spirit high. Within the palace of Taihua, Lan Chuanchu's face was dark and gloomy, and he was pacing back and forth with his hands behind his back. When he saw Xie Lian and Jun Wu had come, he demanded suspiciously, What are you both doing here? Then he saw Qirong, who was behind them, and instantly his color changed. He cried angrily, You! Guzi shrank from his angry roar, but Qirong right now certainly wasn't afraid of him. He sat outside the hall, crossing his legs so cocky he was getting carried away. Nothing to fear, my good son. That's right, it's me. Lan Chuanchu, haven't you been pursuing me to kill me for so long? Didn't you still fall into my hands at the end? Lan Chuanchu was outraged. Veins popped on his forehead and on the back of his hands, yet he was locked within the palace and couldn't take a single step out. He turned to Xie Lian furiously. What the hell are you doing? Did you bring him here to show off? No, Xie Lian cried. Calm down. I've been calm. Lan Chanchu exclaimed. I don't even know what's going on. Jun Wu said, Tai Hua, descend and break that human array in the royal capital. And do so, and I will hand over your enemy, the green ghost Xie Rong, for you to manage. Xie Rong laughed wildly. Lan Chanchu, you young and dumbass! Huh, what did you say? Hand me over? What do you mean? He laughed for a good while before he took in Jun Wu's words and leapt directly to his feet from the chair. What a joke! Hand him over to Lan Chanchu! He murdered Lan Chanchu's entire clan! Lan Chanchu would slaughter him! Jun Wu didn't acknowledge him at all and continued to speak leisurely. Otherwise, I will hand you to the green ghost Xie Rong to be taken care of, and another life can be added to the lives of Yong'an royalty that ended by his hands. Lan Chanchu's face was growing darker and more terrifying, and Xie Rong cried, Wait! Xie Lian couldn't take this anymore. Are you mad? He cried. Why are you forcing them to make such choices? Just what are you trying to show me? Lan Chanchu had always been in pursuit of Xie Rong to kill him, and based on Xie Rong's character, as long as there was an opportunity to take care of Lan Chanchu, then of course he'd make the first move. But if Lan Chanchu really did choose to go break the human array, then Xie Lian would definitely not want to witness it either. If you don't want to watch them make decisions, then why don't you take their place? Jun Wu said. What? Xie Lian gaped. Shanla, this is all the result of your stubborn caprice. Jun Wu said, if you had followed my directions from the beginning, they wouldn't have to face such decisions. Xie Lian was so angry his voice was shaking. Are you saying this is my fault? Why must you force me like this? Do you hate me? Jun Wu said. Just hatred is pointless. If you've got what it takes, then defeat me. But can you? Xie Lian clenched his fist tight, his knuckles cracking. Jun Wu continued, naturally, the you of now doesn't have what it takes. But perhaps if you break the human array, you might gain the ability, since I'll help you remove those 2 locks on your person. Those 2 cursed shackles that had sealed him for 800 years. What would happen if they were released? Xie Rong stared anxiously and cautiously to the interior of the palace of Tai Hua, scared that the next moment Lan Chanchu would choose to break the array and Jun Wu would actually ditch him for Lan Chanchu to take care of. Lan Chanchu's eyes moved rapidly between Xie Lian and Xie Rong. Suddenly, the hand Jun Wu rested on his shoulder had loosened. Xie Lian jolted and whipped his head around. Jun Wu's expression was calm and cold. His head slightly lowered, staring at the curved silver blade that was hooked by his neck. It was the blade of a Ming. Behind him, Hua Chong's eyes were filled with animosity, and he said frostily, move your hand. So long, Xie Lian cried. Hua Chong still came out after all. Jun Wu sucked in a light breath and he smiled at Xie Lian. Shanla, you dared to have an affair with the Ghost King under my eyes! What audacity! Hua Chong humphed. Why don't you take a look in the mirror? Do you even have the right to say anything? Xie Rong hadn't even settled in the chair before he leapt again, his face changing colors and terrified. Hua Chong, you fucker! How did you get up here? Xie Lian pulled out Feng Shen on his waist and slashed over, cutting down the barrier that was locking Lan Chanchu inside, and he cried out, Chanchu, run! Lan Chanchu was still burning with rage. He charged toward Xie Rong, seized him, and then grabbed for the long sword on his back, looking as if he was going to chop Xie Rong into 7 or 8 pieces. However, Guzi hopped down and opened his arms, blocking in front of Xie Rong, and yelled at Lan Chanchu, Don't kill my dad! Lan Chanchu shouted, Move! Your dad is possessed! He's not even your dad! However, Xie Rong suddenly flipped and leapt up, catching Guzi. Don't come any closer, I'm warning you. Don't come near me. Come and I'll eat this kid. I'll rip open his guts and I'll devour it for you to see. Lan Chanchu stopped and yelled angrily, Isn't he your son? He protected you, and you still took him as a shield, you shameless, vulgar demon of the lowest realm. Guzi was still blinking in his hold, and Xie Rong countered, A cheap son, I'll just get another. Jun Wu said lightly, Well, if that's the case. Hearing this tone, Xie Lian instinctively sensed danger, and sure enough, it didn't take long before there was a surprised shouting from the outside, Fire! There's fire! It's burning up! Xie Lian dashed out of the palace of Tai Huang and looked up. Night was falling, but above the heavenly capital was a field of flaming red. Many of the divine palaces below were already sunken into a sea of fire. Xie Lian looked back. What are you doing saying fire to the heavenly capital? All the heavenly officials are still locked inside by you. And they all had their spiritual powers sealed away. If this situation continued, then wouldn't they all be burnt to death in their own palaces? It's not like he cares if those heavenly officials are alive or dead, Hua Chong said. Lan Chanchu was taken aback too, and using this chance, Qi tucked Guzi under his arm and ran away, crawling and scuttling. Lan Chanchu cried, "Stop!" But as if Qi would. Xie Lian yelled, "Chanchu, go release the other heavenly officials first." Lan Chanchu answered subconsciously, "Yes, master!" And then both of them were taken aback. He gave Xie Lian a look and then dashed out. On this side, Hua Chong withdrew Amin's blade, and thousands of silver butterflies came whirling forward, wrapping Jun Wu. He seized Xie Lian's hand and pulled. "Let's go!" Those silver butterflies wouldn't hold Jun Wu back for long, and the two ran out onto the streets. Lan Chanchu moved fast and knocked down a great number of guards. Many heavenly officials were released from their palaces and came out, pouring onto the great Martial Avenue, all anxious and scared. "Why is it burning? Who set the fire? It's not a normal fire either. It can't be extinguished at all." From the distance, they could still hear Qi running and howling, "Fuck, fuck, fuck, fuck Jun Wu! He's fucking crazy! This ancestor is still here, setting fires to burn down his own domain. He really is fucking mental!" Feng Xin had also come out of the palace of Nanyang, standing out in the main street, seeming to be looking for someone. On the side, Mu Qing questioned, "How do we leave?" There wasn't any way to leave. "Can we fly? Everyone's been hurt and our spiritual powers are being restricted. There's no way to fly." Which meant even if everyone was released from their palaces, they were still trapped in a sea of fire within the heavenly capital. Right then, there was suddenly a wild tremor coming from the ground, and the people were even more alarmed. "What's going on? Is it an earthquake?" Lan Chanchu shouted, "How can that be? This is the heavenly capital. It's a city in the sky. How can there be earthquakes? Then what?" Then words died in people's throats. It was a good moment before they started raising their heads, pointing towards, "What is that thing?" Amidst a sky filled with the light of flames, at the end of the long avenue of the heavenly capital, a giant head appeared, and it was staring at the hundreds of heavenly officials on the street. "What is this, Majora's Mask?" The head was truly too big. It was many times the size of the Golden Palace, and it was smiling. What was supposed to be a very peaceful and compassionate smile against the backdrop of this endless dark night and blood-red flames, it appeared rather creepy. Someone clutched their head. "Am I hallucinating? His Highness is so big." It was that divine giant statue. It had flown up. Xie Lian himself was dumbfounded. Wasn't that divine statue lying in Mount Tonglu? And without his control, the divine statue shouldn't be able to fly. Without his command and any spiritual powers, how did it come up? With another look in the black night, it was glittering and sparkling all around the body of that giant stone divine statue. When Xie Lian looked closer, it wasn't light emitting from the divine statue itself, but millions of silver butterflies and millions of blessing lanterns that were encircled and wrapped by its side. It was those silver butterflies and blessing lanterns that shielded and delivered it, flying into the heavens. "Oh my God, Hua Chong! What the fudge? Oh my God!" Hua Chong's like, "I am going to make my Gege the star of the show, the savior of the heavenly officials." Oh my God. What a chapter. My mind is numb. It is reeling. Turning the world upside down. Battle fiery demonic fortress in the sky! This visual, you all. The giant stone divine statue rose higher and higher under the watch of countless stunned and dumbfounded eyes. Xie Lian saw that it was in perfect condition, without any damage, not even a trace of the broken leg White No-Face had inflicted before he could be seen. He sighed delightedly. "So long you fixed it." Hua Chong smiled. "If I have to come to the heavens to pick up Gege, I can't come empty-handed. Let's go!" Ah! Xie Lian nodded. "Everyone hurry up and get on!" However, only then did the crowd of heavenly officials see clearly that it was Hua Chong next to him, and they almost fell to their knees. "Your Highness, the one next to you is..." The distress between Feng Xin's brows grew more apparent, and he finally started calling out, "Zhan Lan! Zhan Lan!" No one responded. Lan Chanchu saw Qi was sneaking around, hiding in the corner of the streets, and was just about to go capture him when unexpectedly, just as he passed by the palace of Taihua, the entire palace suddenly rumbled and collapsed, as if something inside had exploded. The heavenly officials were all startled. When they turned their heads to look, they saw amidst the rubble and raging fires a figure was standing there, head down and silent. Jun Wu had broken out of the silver butterflies. As expected, he couldn't be stopped. Xie Rong hastily scuttled behind Jun Wu and shouted cockily into the streets, "Garbage! Trash! Come over here if you've got what it takes!" Only he dared to go close, ignorant of his own demise. None of the heavenly officials on the side dared to speak. Upon the body of that white-clad martial god, black aura roared to the skies, and white light blinded at the same time, the two colors ever-changing and unpredictable. The heavenly officials all felt this Jun Wu to be infinitely foreign, and they stared at him, not even daring to breathe harshly. Meanwhile, he watched Xie Lian intently and slowly walked towards where the people were gathering. With every step, the flames of war would burn beneath his feet. At first, it was a lively kindles. Then soon after, it spread madly in all directions, growing into raging flames, bowing to the heavens. The flame had caught onto Xie Rong, and he howled demonically, fleeing rapidly with Guzi in his arms. Oh, Chan Yijin was carrying Yin Yu's dead body on his back. Oh, standing in the middle of the street with a face covered in soot, and when he saw Jun Wu, raging fires burnt into his eyes too. He didn't even put the corpse down before he started walking towards him, and it was Xie Lian who pulled him back. Another wave of silver butterflies lunged forward, and using this chance, Xie Lian shouted, "Hurry, don't just stand there!" The heavenly officials all hesitated for a moment before finally, they each answered the cry one after the other. Hundreds of heavenly officials leapt on the giant divine statue, like a band of black ants climbing on and crowding on by its shoulders and chest. If there were no places to stand, they could only grab onto the hems. If it was going to fly, it couldn't just depend on those blessing lanterns and silver butterflies, but there were too many people present. Xie Lian couldn't make a move on Huachong. Ideas come in emergencies. Oh my god! And Xie Lian randomly pulled a heavenly official over. Behind him, Xie Lian cupped Huachong's face. Oh, and kissed him deeply! Oh, because he has to power it up! Yes! Time passed. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god! It just happened! Time passed and Xie Lian's whole body was instantly filled with spiritual power. Wait, the heavenly official who had been taken for a screen stiffened completely and cried in shock, "What are you two doing behind my back?" Countless eyes came flying over, only then did Xie Lian discover the one he pulled over to block people's views was actually Lan Chachu! I'd been hoping it was Pei Ming. Xie Lian deeply, he's still in the palace, right? Or did he get broken free? Xie Lian deeply repented mentally. What a sin, what a sin, this mustn't be seen by this child! He exclaimed, "We've done nothing! Nothing you should see!" Then he turned around and shouted at the divine statue, "Fly!" The divine statue seemed to have heard his call. As if something was activated, its squinted eyes suddenly flashed open, and the smile on its face grew deeper. The silver butterflies and blessing lanterns scattered abruptly, but it still floated steadily in the sky. Its long hair, sleeves, and hems also seemed to be fluttering in the wind. It's flying! Oh my god! Xie Lian and Huachong also leapt up and stood upon the jaded crown. Oh my god! Platform at the top of the divine statue's head. Xie Lian shouted, "Everyone stay steady! Hang on tight!" Just as he finished, the body of the divine statue sank and then shot forward with force. Xie Lian and Huachong stood at the highest point, and along with the divine statue carried many heavenly officials far away from the heavenly capital. However, there were still quite a number of heavenly officials who had kept years of savings in the heavenly capital, so they kept looking back despairingly and dejectedly. After calming down for a bit, Xie Lian suddenly remembered that things were in such a flurry earlier he hadn't had time to take count. He said, "Has everyone boarded? Where's Goshi? Where's Pei Ming?" Who knows if General Pei would fall to his misfortunes? He was just searching for the shadows of those who were familiar and he cried, "Master!" From far in the distance came Goshi's voice in response, "I've come!" Only then did Xie Lian felt slightly relaxed, and just then suddenly cried out, "It's catching up! It's catching up!" As expected, behind the back of the giant divine statue, something crimson was in pursuit, like a life-claiming red light. It was the heavenly capital! The original heavenly capital was wrapped and encircled by propitious and auspicious clouds. Right now, it was instead burning with the flames of war and had transformed into a fiery demonic fortress. Someone said in terror, "It's the Emperor. The Emperor is moving the heavenly capital, and he's going to annihilate us all. He's going to catch up." But Xie Lian shouted, "Not so fast!" His hand sealed, changed rapidly, and the eyes of the giant divine statue flashed. The wind whipping around the heavenly official's ears blew faster, howling like mad, and the red light chasing behind them instantly fell back a large distance. The divine statue was now flying even faster. This is insanity. While things sped up on this end, That red light didn't give up either. Its speed suddenly exploded, rumbling and rumbling, and now it was even closer, making many heavenly officials cry out in alarm. With this distance, they could almost see clearly the figure standing within the heavenly capital. Meanwhile, the mortar worm had no idea what was going on at all. Children were laughing and playing, and when they saw the sky, a white light dashing across and a red light flying past, they hung their mouths open and clasped. It's so pretty! Xie Lian knew things couldn't go on like this, and they must speed up again, but he was feeling slightly dizzy. He had flown for so long after all, and on a single breath. Hua Chong was helping him up, but before the two could exchange words, they heard down below the Goshi yelling, "Well, what are you all standing there for? A bunch of heavenly officials still need to borrow spiritual powers from a ghost king to make their escape? Aren't you all embarrassed of yourselves?" Some heavenly officials didn't appreciate the tone, saying, "Well, who are you? What right do you have to lecture us?" The Goshi countered, "It doesn't matter who I am. Even when I was in the upper court, you were still playing in the sandbox somewhere. The point is, hurry up and place your delicate golden hands on this divine statue and give as much spiritual power as you all can. Only then can this divine statue fly even faster, unless you're waiting for him to catch up. Are you all so used to watching from the sidelines that you've forgotten your lives are on the line? Do you all need me to remind you of something like this?" With this reminder, Since finally returned to the heavenly officials. They all yelped, much ashamed that they'd actually forgot they could use this method to go support. Thus, they all went to work, putting their hands on the divine statue. "Your Highness, this lowly one will, give you a hand. Me too. There's not much, but we can do what we can." With that, with 700 to 800 hands and feet, the divine statue was injected full of spiritual powers again, and Xie Lian felt himself re-energized. The divine statue powered up once again, and this time with a large rumble. It left the red light far, far behind for dozens of miles. The heavenly officials all deeply sighed in relief, each one wiping away their sweat. Suddenly, Hua Chong said, "Gege, go down below." Since he spoke up, Xie Lian didn't ask why, and he moved downwards directly. The divine statue broke through the pitch-black layers of cloud, and what was down below was also a field of darkness. Not even a bit of light or smoke could be seen. The heavenly officials were all agitated. "Well, what is this place? Why is it so dark? It's pretty scary. Your Highness, why did we come down here? I don't think we should stay here for too long." However, Hua Chong said, "We will all stay here and don't move. Let's wait." That giant divine statue thus floated in midair, and Xie Lian said, "What are we waiting for?" Hua Chong replied in a whisper, "Wait till he catches up and fight around." Just as the words left his lips, from above the clouds of that black night, a red light broke through, and it also came sinking down. Each man was a fortress, and they faced each other in the night sky. Each heavenly official watched with unblinking eyes the approach of that red light, chills going down their backs, and they all questioned, "Your Highness, why aren't we leaving? You can't be thinking of fighting him head on. There's no chance at winning." "He's gone stupid again. I just knew it. This guy just loves going stupid. It's been hundreds of years, and it's always been like, 'Oh, who kicked me?'" "Me," the Goshi said. "Say one more word and I'll push you off directly." "Just who are you?" That divine statue might be a giant object, but the heavenly capital was even more majestic. If they really did fight head on, then by the size of the divine statue, it would definitely be crushed. But Xie Lian had complete trust in Hua Chong, and he watched without a word. Just as the red light came from not half a mile away, Xie Lian suddenly felt something beneath his feet was being triggered. When he looked down, he found that it was the darkness beneath his feet that was moving, splashing, rising, and folding like waves! Xie Lian realized where they were! Yes! Then it was also heavenly officials who noticed, and someone said in terror, "Oh my heavens, this place is the Blackwater demon lair! We've been brought to the lair of demons!" And just as the words were said, down below there were suddenly white strips breaking through the darkness, leaping into the air. 4 sets of eyes, 8 giant eyes as big as ghost fire lanterns, hauntingly green, and they stared at the fiery demonic fortress. They let out long malicious howls as if they were very displeased by the rude intruder, and their giant tails whipped back and forth, slapping at the surface of the sea. Exciting waves, thousands of feet high. It was the 4 bone dragons. The moment they raised their heads to the demonic fortress, a rapid current shot out of their mouths, its striking power immense. Even iron and steel walls would be broken down through such a giant water gun. What? It used water gun, and it was super effective. Xie Lian couldn't help but reevaluate his impression. The last time we saw them, They were a little... I didn't think they were actually this ferocious. From this pitch-black surface of the sea, new corpse bones of the giant monster continued to break through the waters, and the fish flew with a whistling noise, like they were catapulting boulders at the fortress. When the heavenly officials saw, they were completely confounded. Jun Wu was chasing after them to kill them, while Hua Chong and Blackwater seemed to be helping them. Such a scene! This was truly curious. The 4 bone dragons surrounded the demonic fortress and shot at it wildly, but it wasn't very effective, since the raging flames of war certainly could not be extinguished by mere water. The more the fish tackled, the more the fires became enraged, and it burned all the way to the waters. On the sea surface of the Blackwater demon lair, raging fire grew, and the firelight danced wildly within the waters. From the depths of the water came a howling and wailing of ghouls. Sweat dropped, and it rolled down Xie Lian's forehead. Is it okay that we brought such a mess to the Blackwater's domain? Don't worry about those things, Hua Chong said. He owes me money. Fight however you will. What? Xie Lian said, what? Suddenly pointed ahead. What is it doing? Xie Lian also turned his gaze over, and when he saw, his heart jolted. MXTX authors note, Blackwater does indeed owe Hua Chong a huge debt, a very poor Supreme. He's severely dragged down by the income average of the entire Supreme rank, although there's only 3, but it's not all owed from eating too much. Oh my god, what is this? What is this chapter said? I'm like, my mind is buzzing. I'm like numb. There's so much happening. We have 1 chapter left. Chapter 225, Turning the World Upside Down. Battle Fiery Demonic Fortress in the Sky, Part 2. That fiery demonic fortress that was once the heavenly capital was shaking in the sky, snapping and cracking. Countless bits of flame rubble came rolling down, tumbling into the water as the body of the fortress slowly turned around. At first, it was laid out flat, but now it had stood up vertically and started to divide. The many divine palaces that were sitting atop the grounds of the heavenly capital were moving their positions, and what was once a perfect fortress had started to break down into 7 or 8 large pieces. Is it becoming Voltron? What? A heavenly official wondered, have we struck it down? Is it falling apart? How can it be that easy? Xie Lian said. This is probably, before he finished, those broken pieces of the fortress body rapidly reconstructed themselves. Oh my god! The sound of friction between the giant boulders was incessant, and as the heavenly officials watched, their eyes grew bigger, and some of their mouths hung wide open. The fiery demonic fortress wasn't falling apart. It was rebuilding itself after splitting into different parts, and after reconstruction, it became a fiery giant! The giant was roused from its deep slumber and stood tall in the air. The shimmering golden palaces covered almost all of its body like a full body of armor, sturdy and solid. It replaced the heavenly capital and faced Xie Lian's giant stone divine statue. However, when comparing the 2 sides, Xie Lian's side actually had become delicately small and a little pitiful, like a child standing against an adult. This giant divine statue could be called a gigantic object, but this fiery giant could be taken the title of a dominating of both heaven and earth. It was bigger by 5 or 6 times at least. So terrifying that it made one's hair stand, as if with one step it could destroy a fortress beneath its feet. After the reconstruction was thoroughly complete, the fiery giant slowly turned its head, and from its mouth spouted a torrent of flames, sweeping towards the 4 bone dragons. The wall of flames cut through those 4 water guns, and when those 4 bone dragons saw things were going downhill, they each dove back into the sea. As for the giant, it landed its feet above the surface of the sea, taking like it was on land, and steadily walked towards the giant stone divine statue. Atop the head of that giant was the great martial hall, and Jun Wu was enthroned within, permeating an impressive aura. The heavenly officials were all suffocating with this air, and they cried out, "Your Highness, don't just stand there. Hurry and get away. We're dying here. We can't win. There's no way we can win. Wake up, Your Highness. It's bigger than you by 1,000,000-fold." But Xie Lian responded, "We can't keep running away. Even if we can't win, we can't go anywhere else." The heavenly officials were first taken back before it dawned on them. Indeed, they couldn't keep running like this. If Hua Chong stopped providing them spiritual powers, then it was just their spiritual powers, and they would be exhausted to the point where the divine statue could no longer fly, and in the end, they still must find somewhere to fight. Or rather, than luring that giant, fiery giant somewhere where it was populated. Why not just take care of things here? What is this? What is this, a Marvel movie? What is this, a Marvel movie? Zack Snyder, what are we doing? At least above the sea of this black water demon lair, there was not a soul. No mortals could be dragged in. While those were considerations a heavenly official should naturally have, against such a menacing fiery giant, just thinking about how this would be the opponent they must battle with water behind their backs, blackwater no less, who wouldn't be terrified? But even then, no one wanted to be the first to yell for Xie Lian to quickly take them somewhere where there are more people. Thus Xie Lian said, "Everyone hang on. Be careful not to fall off. No one will sink in the waters of the blackwater demon lair." That fiery giant lunged at the stone divine statue that was smaller than itself by many times and reached out looking to be grabbing for it. Xie Lian agilely dodged, leaping vigorously. And the heavenly officials holding onto the divine statue were flung around, flipping and toppling, sometimes rising, sometimes falling, exceedingly distressing and thrilling, their screams going up and down along the divine statue. Never mind that most of them weren't martial gods and only sat in their palaces all day. Even very few martial gods had ever experienced a battle such as this. Xie Lian heard Chan Yijin yell, "You don't have a weapon! You need a weapon!" The heavenly officials finally couldn't hold back any longer. "Yeah, your highness, it's hard to win if you don't have a weapon." Xie Lian yelled back, "I'm trying to think of what can be used as a weapon." Ri very excitedly twisted its body into many loops and came snuggling to his face. But Xie Lian pushed it away. "Well, thank you, but you won't do. You're too small." Thus then Hua Chong spoke up. "It's not like there's no weapon if you need one, but use this for now." Then Xie Lian heard another round of shrieking howls. The 4 bone dragons that dove into the sea to evade the flames from the fiery giant poked out again, surrounding the giant stone divine statue. The heavenly officials couldn't help but be alarmed. What are they planning? Naturally, they didn't surround to attack. Xie Lian watched them as they bit onto the other's tail, and the 4 bone dragons linked into one very curiously long bone dragon. That linked bone dragon leapt up and came flying over. Without thinking, Xie Lian raised his hand and the giant divine statue caught it. Xie Lian muttered in wonder, "This is a bone dragon whip! Are we about to get kinky, MXTX? What?" Just then, just control it as he would Ruyi and it would be fine. Are we getting into some secret Xie Lian kinks that we don't quite know about, that Hua Chong is just testing the waters, so to speak? I'm gonna stop. Xie Lian whipped up his hand, and the bone dragon whip whipped over, going straight for the fiery giant's head. That fiery giant also raised its hand and caught the end of the whip. However, the bone dragon whip suddenly snapped from the middle, and the giant divine statue took a step forward. With the whip in hand, it whipped again at the giant's head. That fiery giant looked as if it took a painful hit and loosened its grip, and the stretch of the bone dragon it had caught slithered back, linking once again with the rest of Xie Lian's hand. This bone dragon whip could break and reattach, exceedingly flexible. Sometimes it'd break into 2, sometimes into 4, plus that giant divine statue's moves were also extremely agile, so it suddenly became very hard to handle. The heavenly official's hair was all blown into complete wild messes from the flinging whirlwinds, their hymns covering their faces. I didn't think His Highness actually had a couple moves. I've only ever seen him collect junk, and he really did come from a martial god background. You can take away the "I didn't think" at the beginning of your sentence, the Goshi said. And there's no need to put emphasis on that junk collection either. Xie Lian said, just trying to be modest here. That incredibly long linked bone dragon whip was like a tragically white steel chain, crackling as it tangled the opponent. The fiery demonic giant's body sank, and immediately the heavenly official snapped to, "Oh, quick, pull it into the sea!" Below the battlefield was that black water demon lair. One would sink in its waters. The giant divine statue gripped the bone dragon whip, and Xie Lian gritted his teeth as he exerted force. "Come on down!" Sure enough, that fiery demonic giant sank a bit more. The heavenly officials quickly put all their hands and feet on top of the giant divine statue again to transfer spiritual powers, chanting, "Sink, sink, hurry and sink!" Listening to their voices shouting "Sink" at Jun Wu. Xie Lian felt a chill in his heart and looked at the giant martial hall sitting atop the divine statue. For some reason, although he couldn't completely see the expression of the one sitting within, he could somehow sense that Jun Wu was jeering. That fiery demonic giant was pulled into the bottom of the sea as expected, but the flames on its body were still burning even after it entered the waters, and they were not extinguished, and instead, from the blackness of the sea, a red light was glowing, and only slowly disappeared as the bone dragon pulled it deeper and deeper. The heavenly officials all sighed in relief, but Xie Lian didn't dare to completely relax still. There wasn't any sound for a good while. Xie Lian then remembered that Pei Ming didn't answer his call, and he didn't hear the voices of Ban Yu and the others. So they were probably all dragged into the sea together with the giant. This time, it really might be the worst case scenario for them. Just then, the surface of the sea down below started rolling and bubbling. It bubbled and bubbled, and it kept spreading and started surging, and there were even waves of white smoke. The seawater was boiling. Xie Lian was just about to fly upward when suddenly a hand broke through the waters and grabbed the ankle of the giant divine statue, and Xie Lian felt its body forcibly sink. Jun Wu's laughter was echoing throughout the entire sea, filling every corner. It wasn't a wild laughter, and it wasn't jeers either. It couldn't be described, but it was even more chilling. With that dragging, half of the body of the giant divine statue was pulled into the boiling water, and the heavenly officials, Huckleberry and Ruby! The heavenly officials hanging out on the bottom had to quickly climb up. And even Xie Lian, who was standing at the very top of the giant divine statue, could feel the suffocating steam and heat. So hot the sweat rolled from his forehead and down his back. If they were to be dragged onto the sea, then they were going to be cooked from top to bottom. That won't do, and other weapons couldn't release his full potential. He needed a sword. Suddenly, he heard the Goshi's voice. Fluffy child, what are you doing? Don't just toss a corpse at me. Wait, what are you doing? Xie Lian was also alarmed, and he also, while maintaining the handstill, shouted down below, Qi Ying! Only then did he saw a figure dash along the leg of the divine statue, and then up along the arm of the fiery demonic demon, running straight for its head. Xie Lian shouted, Qi Yang! Qi Ying, come back! However, Chan Yizhen heeded no one. The moment he dashed on the fiery demonic giant's arm, he was discovered, and the giant's other hand came slapping over like he was slapping at a mosquito resting on his arm. Incredibly fast and incredibly on target. Pah! It slapped right on! Many heaven officials screamed in alarm, but when they looked closely, Chan Yizhen was still running. It turns out that slap certainly was on target, but he had dodged to the crevice between the 5 fingers of the giant and escaped the tragedy of becoming a lump of bloody flesh. He leapt over the fingers and continued his run. The giant continued to slap, and he just barely dodged the first and the second slap, but he might not be so lucky the third time. When the next slap came, he might just turn into a bloody mess. However, Chan Yizhen had already reached his destination. He jumped into the skull of the bone dragon that was tangling the fiery demonic giant. The moment he jumped in, the 2 ghost fire lanterns within the bone dragon's eyes suddenly flashed, the light exploding, and even its body was emitting a thin layer of white light. It raised its head and gave a long howl, its body wrapping even tighter. Xie Lian could hear the heavy sound of boulders being crushed. Receiving such suffocation, that fiery demonic giant loosened its grip and finally released the ankle of the giant divine statue. And once free, Xie Lian instantly flew into the air and reached out a hand. Qi Ying, come over quick, don't tangle with it! Chan Yizhen was riding that linked bone dragon whip, and not only did he not let go, he even roared, using all of his strength, and urged it to wrap even tighter. Countless bits of rubble and debris fell to the surface of the sea, and the fiery demonic giant lost its patience, pulling out of the sea completely. From within the great martial hall, flames of war roared anew, burning all across its body. And the bone dragon that was firmly wrapped around its body was also drowned in the sea of fire, along with Chan Yizhen. Qi Ying! Xie Lian cried, and leaned over, charging towards the giant, punching apart at the linked bone dragon whip. White joints of the burning bones fell into the sea. And just as Xie Lian was about to catch the bone dragon's skull where Chan Yizhen was, that giant's hand came slapping, sending the bone dragon's skull flying over 3-4 miles away. With that distance and speed, the giant divine statue couldn't seize the skull in midair at all. And by the time it rushed over, Chan Yizhen would probably have already fallen to the sea, along with the linked bone dragon whip. And right now, the sea was practically a pot of boiling water, cooking whoever would fall in. Right at the last second, a giant white bonefish suddenly flew out over the surface of the sea and caught the bone dragon's head. Then, like a fish that escaped the net, it hastily swam far, far away, whipping its tail. There was fright, but no actual danger, and Xie Lian sighed a breath of relief and sped over to see. After breaking away from the giant, the teeth of the bone dragon's skull were still chattering, but the flames had been put out. Its mouth opening and closing like it was panting harshly. Chon Yijin was lying inside, completely black, somewhat roasted. Perhaps it was because it was roasted by fire, but his hair appeared to be even curlier. However, because of the bones of the bone dragon's skull acted as a protective shield, he wasn't burnt too badly. And it should just be a flesh wound. 'Tis a flesh wound that would heal after a quiet nurturing. After all, Chon Yijin's life force was very tenacious. The state of those 4 bone dragons was more severe, burnt and struck, their dead bones scattered all over the surface of the sea, some burning even still. Xie Lian glanced at them and couldn't help but feel another wave of embarrassment. We've also destroyed the bodies of the guards of the Blackwater's abode. Is it really okay? Huachong smiled. Oh, no, fine. Don't worry, it's fine. Xie Lian wondered, just how much money does he owe you? The heavenly officials saw the tragic state of Chon Yijin and said, I can't believe His Highness Qi Ying, very brave, to stand out in the moment of danger, saving everyone. Xie Lian recalled how Chon Yijin had received all those cold shoulders in the upper court and shook his head, thinking, it's not that he wanted to go save everyone. Just then, from afar in the distance behind them came crackling sounds again. When they looked back, the body of the giant was completely covered by raging fires. It didn't charge to attack, but instead it flew upward into the sky, through the clouds, and vanished just like that. The heavenly officials were all dumbfounded. Then they were overjoyed they'd survived a calamity. Oh, has he given up on attacking us? Xie Lian didn't think this was a good prospect at all. San Long, how did he just vanish? He activated the distance shortening array, Huachong answered. Well, where did he go? Huachong's eyes were solemn. The royal capital. That's where the Windmaster Shi Qingshang's was, still guarding the human array. No! Oh my god! What? Oh! Y'all, this chapter set was so action-packed, and my mind is reeling, and I'm numb, my deodorant has failed, and I'm gonna need a hot second. Oh my god. I was like, you know that euphoric feeling when like I haven't felt it since the start of volume 6 where like all the revelations were happening and my hands were tingling, my head was lightheaded. I was like, am I gonna pass out reading this? Because there's just so much, and trying to like have the volume and energy of what's going on and match it is hard. This volume is kind of all over the place, but in the best way. But I don't know. I would honestly be okay waiting a while when we get to this season of the Donghua, waiting for how long it takes them to do it, because I don't know if the animation team's gonna be able to do it justice. I don't know, because it's so epic and such a large scale. And I'm not dissing the Donghua. Like, I like the Donghua a lot. Have I seen better animated things? Yeah, but I'm not dissing it. I love the Donghua to pieces, but I just don't know, like, the action and the scale of this, they're going to have some help or something, because it's got to be as epic as MXTX writes it, it would be hard to adapt and do it perfect justice. Just absolutely incredible. Like, we get 2 pictures, thank goodness. They're finally giving us pictures in the last part of the volume, thank goodness. Lan Chanshu looks a little different there in the book. I feel like every version of Lan Chanshu looks a little bit different. In the manhwa, he looks like he has this big fluffy hair. In the Donghua, he looks like he's had too much time with a straightener. And here he looks like Pei Ming. So I'm like, make up your mind, show. But yeah, I just love the idea of using him as a shield. And then we get this cute little kiss face. At this point, there's so much going on that I can't keep track. Like the kiss happened, like it was all just chaos and madness, and then suddenly Xie Lian's like, oh yeah, we need more power, and just pulls Huachong in for a makeout session, and I was like, oh wait, yes, romance, but there's no time to think about romance because there's all this action happening, and oh my god, the idea. First of all, we'll talk about the bone whip. The bone whip. Xie Lian's and Huachong's unearthed kinks that could be happening saying at this point. I'm like, oh. Xie Lian does say by the end of the chapter set that he's like, I don't feel good unless I have a sword in my hand. Which, just now saying it, I was like, oh no. I mean, I think that you can look at the phrase, Xie Lian doesn't feel good unless he has a sword in his hand, to mean that he needs a sword as a weapon, but also... it's just good to know. Maybe the whip is more of a Huachong kink, and Heshan that Xie Lian's like, I mean, this could work, but I'm just not feeling it. MXTX somehow finding ways to make even the most action-packed chapters have sexy time in them. Look at MXTX, look at them soar. But that image of the palace, like the idea that the creativity and the idea that the entire heavenly capital, the heavenly realm, becomes a giant, monstrous being is insane. Like, you can see, like, the palace is all becoming, and then the golden, on top of it, like a shogun helmet, is this giant, the heavenly capital, where Jun Wu is trapped by themselves inside. Although, Pei Ming, Banyu, I guess we should talk about these chapters. Oh my god, okay. These chapters were incredible. There was so much action and stuff. I don't think I did it justice reading it, but my mind was just, I had to take a moment after the reaction and just like gather myself because there was just so much happening. So, The Ring, Volume 8, I'm assuming is going to talk about that. We only have one chapter set next week for Volume 7 left. What a way to end out as we're going back to the Heavenly Capital. We're going to talk about that. Function and Mooching's conversation. Maybe we're going to get more about it by the end of the story. Who knows? Who sent the Banyu puppet? That's going to be a Volume 8 thing for sure. MXTX had made it known that they're going to answer that question, just not right now. The 500 years in the Third Ascension. I feel like maybe we've gotten enough about that. Who knows? The Fetus Spirit origin. I feel like that's all got to come to play next volume as well. The Brocade Immortal. Xie Lian's Cursed Shackle got brought up in this. I feel like we're going to go back to it. Yin Yu. So I guess we can kind of, we sort of know Yin Yu's fate. They were chucked out to the Goshi. We'll talk about that. But they're there on the statue. Good, their corpse is there. So maybe we can get his spirit back. I don't know what's going to happen with the corpse. We'll see. Pei Ming and Shanji. Well, we kind of got answers to that. I guess we're gonna erase the question mark and just leave it at Pei Ming, because we kind of know Pei Ming is the question mark here. Are they dead or alive? What's happening? The Thunder Master and the Rain Master. I'm hoping the Rain Master got out. I'm assuming they did. Thunder Master's gone completely missing. Maybe we'll never hear about them again. Who knows? Function and Xie Lian. That is a big question mark because Function was calling out to her and she didn't answer, so we'll see. But they're ghosts. They're probably fine. As long as their ashes are somewhere, they're fine. Mooching. Don't know about Mooching. We assume that we saw them for a hot second, assume they got on the divine statue. Lan Chu was a big factor in this chapter set. And then Ling Wen we assume is with the Brocade Immortal. We don't know. Well, no, wait. Ling Wen's a Druidal. Ling Wen's a Druidal in Xie Lian's sleeve. There we go. Yeah, we just don't. And the Brocade Immortal is on Xie Lian. So there's that, right? Heshan! I was really wanting Heshan to come out this chapter set. I was really hoping Heshan would like peek his head out and be like, why are you here? And Hachong's like, you owe me money, bitch. Bitch better have my money. And Heshan just like slowly recedes. I'm going to be curious to know if Heshan goes maybe with the beef leaf shipper in me would like for Heshan to go with Xie Lian and Huachong back to the Heavenly Capital, because you know they're going to go back, or not the Heavenly Capital, back to Shanla's capital, because you know they're going to next chapter set, right? Or at least I have theories about that. I would love Heshan to go with them, to be like, oh, well, you know, maybe you might need me for a bonefish, maybe as the whip, I don't know, but they're all kind of trashed at this point, so I guess maybe Xie Lian won't be able to use the bonefish anymore. But there's like the beef leaf shipper in me would like Heshan to go as a supreme ghost and try to help the Windmaster, but I don't know if that's going to be the case. I mean, even without their bone dragonfish, because they're pretty much decimated at this point, even without them, I feel like Heshan is a supreme ghost, and Huachong can be like, hey, if you come with me, we can put our with our supreme ghost powers combined, maybe we can take on Jun Wu. If you want to come with me, and Heshan would be like, no. And then Xie Lian would be like, but Ching Chong's there, and he'd be like, and then Heshan would be like, you won't owe me any more money if you come. And I'd be like, okay, deal. I want Heshan to get involved as the Supreme Ghost because they've been so in the dark. And we did just have this massive battle in their lair. And they were just like hanging out being like, oh, please, I just imagine Heshan with a pillow over his head like, they're not here. They're not here. They're not here. I don't want to talk to them. No. And then Huachong's like, hey, Heshan, can you come help? And he's like, ah. But we'll see. Qi-Rong! God, Qi-Rong, this chapter said. Holy shit. And then Banyu and Pei-Su are with Pei Ming, but are they alive? Are they dead? I hope they're okay. I feel like they will be, but I don't know how. Just, we'll have to wait and see, I'm sure. Maybe Heshan would save them. Maybe Heshan, when they all got under there, was like, I'll save you guys, I guess, from one ghost king to another. Whatever. I don't know. This chapter set had a lot going on. And I feel like everybody is all up in the air as to fates, which is very appropriate because we're about to end volume 7 and then we have one more volume to wrap everything up. So that feels right. And then after I'm done with volume 8, I'll find a way to deal with the additional materials, all the extra stuff that's going to happen. We'll have to see. So, yeah, let's talk about this chapter set. What the heck? What the heck? So, I brought Whiteboard out just in case if I needed it. I don't know if I will or not, but we might talk about a couple things. So, here's the thing. I guess we might as well just deal with the thing that we're building up towards is the human array that is versing the human face disease. We've got that going on right now still over at the Palace of Shanla, which is technically Yong'an, right? Correct, Yong'an. It's at the capital, so they're there. And we know that we have all these humans there, as well as Shi Qingsheng is there as well. And there, plus all the humans and the Huachong puppet, right? That he's trying to lead there. So they're just fighting the human face disease, which has been brought on by Jun Wu. And as of this moment, Jun Wu is headed there, right? Jun Wu and the Heavenly Capital Fortress, aka Giant, is headed there. What's interesting about this is that there has to be, in my mind, again, I'm going to theorize with y'all, but it's like, why didn't Jun Wu go and destroy it to begin with? Why was he just doing... He's torturing Xie Lian. He's trying to torture Xie Lian and be like, if you had just done what I told you from the beginning, I wouldn't have to make your life hard like this. I'm like, that is messed up. Like, that is some messed up behavior. Like, that is... What's very weird is that in this chapter alone, Jun Wu kind of runs this weird, treads this soft, thin line. And we've been talking about it since the beginning of the series, right? We joked about it in volume 1 when everybody was talking about Xie Lian and Jun Wu being shipped together. And I was like, ew, gross, no. And then people were talking about Jun Wu and Xie Lian having like a father-son relationship. And I was like, ew, kind of gross, no. And now it's like Jun Wu is this weird, odd line between... He, like, is trying to teach Xie Lian like a parent, but then he gets mad when he's like, you had an affair with the Ghost King. And I'm like, why? Were you expecting Xie Lian to have an affair with you? Gross. So it's just like, ew, no, none of these fronts match. It's like, I'm so hardcore Xie Lian and Huachong. And the thing about it is, you have a character like the Goshi that definitely feels like that, like, crazy uncle. Like the crazy uncle figure that's just like, I knew you could do it. He feels like Uncle Iroh from Avatar is what the Goshi feels like. He just feels like Uncle Iroh. So I kind of love that the Goshi and Xie Lian have a clear kind of like parental family figure relationship. But then Jun Woo's is so toxic and weird that it's like it. And Xie Lian for a long time thought it was just, you know, like, oh, we're just having this great relationship. We really respect each other. But the more that stuff has come out with Jun Wu, you realize, no, it's actually pretty toxic and scary. And Hua Chong's like, not having it. I was so happy when Hua Chong showed up, but we'll talk about that here in a second. So, but yeah, it's weird that Jun Wu just doesn't go and do it himself. Instead, he's trying to like tempt Xie Lian and like show him all these characters being tortured. It didn't work with Yin Yu. And it technically doesn't work with Pei Ming either. You can tell Pei Ming doesn't want to do it, but Pei Ming is like trying to figure out what to do. Pei Ming is a pragmatic character, and you can tell he doesn't want to go along with it, but also he's like, I also really don't want to deal with Rong Guang and Shang-Chi and the others. He's like, God, I don't want to deal with them. And he doesn't want to put Pei Su or Ban Yu in danger. So Pei Ming's like, can I just like take the middle route and get away with it? And the thing about it is, Jun Woo's like, my patience is limited, and he gives Pei Ming time to think, but he also kind of pulls the dick move of being like, yeah, I'll give you time to think while these guys are attacking you. So have fun with that. And leaves them all put together. So, but yeah, also, it's like, Jun Wu tries to like also point out the fact that Pei Ming did something sketchy. He's like, yeah, you were covering up little Pei's like deaths that he caused at Ban Yu Pass and trying to push the affairs on others. And that gets Rong Wong all fired up, so to speak, about everything, and Shang-Chi as well. But Pei Ming's just like, the thing about it is, Pei Ming was trying to cover up Pei Su's actions, but I would not put Pei Ming on the same level as Xie Wudu, for example. Like, Xie Wudu passed off his responsibility onto another person and it caused them their deaths. I would say, even though it caused deaths, the situation with Pei Ming and Pei Su and the people at Ban Yu were different than Xie Wudu. It's weird. It's riding a very thin line. I don't know. I guess I'm more mad at Xie Wudu than I am Pei Ming, but it's complicated. It's complicated, right? It's very complicated. And I like that, you know, Xie Lian is so concerned about Pei Ming and Ban Yu. Pei Ming, if you've watched Attack on Titan, Pei Ming is the Reiner of this series. He really is. And I love Reiner in Attack on Titan. And I'm not going to spoil that series for you if you haven't read it or watched it. But essentially, Reiner is a character that is just like a pincushion for problems. And Pei Ming is just like the pincushion for problems. Like captain of the Hualien ship, but just gets beat up by MXTX. MXTX puts Pei Ming through a bunch of shit, and I feel bad for him in a lot of respects. The thing that's so scary, though, is that Xie Lian is like, why are you doing this? What are you planning? And Jun Wu just goes, next. Like, it's just like, well, that failed. Yin Yu failed. Pei Ming failed. Now I'm going to go to Lan Chu. He probably won't fail. He'll probably go and get the human array messed up. And I was genuinely worried. I was genuinely terrified the moment that we went to Lan Chu. I'm like, Lan Chu has, for a large part of the series, been very hot-headed, very easy to snap, and very reactionary. And I was concerned that immediately Lan Chu was gonna be like, sure, I'll go down there and do it if you'll give me Qi-Rong. I'm happily surprised that he doesn't just immediately jump on it, that he actually thinks it through. I'm like, oh my God, Himbo, Lan Chu, thank you for not just doing that. Like, you can tell that Lan Chu has had time to think about everything and reflect. And I'm glad that not only is Xie Lian not given up hope on him, but that Lan Chu hasn't given up hope on Xie Lian. Like, I like that. I appreciate that a lot. But damn, Qi-Rong being there. And Jun Wu just immediately tells Qi-Rong what to do, and Qi-Rong does it. He's like, yeah. And just gets kind of like sneery with Xie Lian, because Xie Lian's words don't mean much with Jun Wu there as far as Qi-Rong is concerned. But one of the best parts of this whole chapter was that Jun Wu was like, look, Lan Chu, if you go down and break the human array in the royal capital, then I will give you Qi-Rong that you can do whatever you want with him. And Qi-Rong is like, ha, see, gotcha, wait, what? There's like a double take in this chapter. So then Qi-Rong's like, what do you mean he gets me? And I'm like, oh no, like, Qi-Rong, did you not think Jun Wu was not gonna like just hand you over instantly? He's just using you, right? But again, I feel like maybe there's something there that Jun Wu can't break. Because why would Jun Wu try to get Pei Ming to go down there? Try to get Lan Chu to go down there? Like, is it that Jun Wu doesn't want to go down there himself because he'd be leaving the heavenly capital and he's afraid something would happen? Or is there something at the royal capital, not the heavenly one, but the royal capital that Jun Wu is not able to break through, that he's not let on yet, and Xie Lian just hasn't figured it out? Is there something there? I'm so curious. But then, yeah, Xie Lian's like, why are you doing this? Why are you making them choices? What are you trying to show me? Because Xie Lian's like, what is this stupid teachable moment you're trying to give me? This is just torturing people, and you're just making people miserable. What are you doing? And he says, if you don't want to watch them make decisions, then go take their place. And Xie Lian's like, excuse me? And he says, this is a result of your stubborn caprice. If you'd followed my directions from the beginning, you wouldn't have to face these decisions. And Xie Lian's like, why are you treating me like a child? Like, I'm an adult. Why are you treating me like a child? And what is, like, it is, Jun Wu's behavior is so toxic. It's just like gaslighting to the extreme. It's toxic. It's not good. Because then he immediately goes from being like, well, this is just because you wouldn't listen to me. And Xie Lian's like, why should I have? There's no reason for that. And he's like, why are you forcing me like this? Like, this makes no sense. And then Jun Wu's like, well, do you hate me? He's like, hatred's pointless. If you've got what it takes to defeat me, then go ahead. But can you? It's like, that is so messed up. It's so messed up. And it's like Jun Wu saying like, well, then just fight me if you can. But oh wait, you have these curse shackles that you put on yourself, so I guess you can't, right? And Xie Lian's like, and then to add insult to injury, Jun Wu says, well, of course you of now doesn't have what it takes because you've punished yourself. But if you break the human array, you might gain that ability. And I'll help you remove those 2 shackles on your person. And that's such a temptation because it's putting Xie Lian in the same position that Yin Yu is in. He's like, oh, because he knows that Yin Yu and Xie Lian are very similar, right? So the moment he said that, I'm like, well, Xie Lian would be tempted to take that power of getting the cursed shackles taken away, and then he'd be like, oh yeah, I'll go destroy the human array. But then he would try to attack Jun Wu, I'm sure, but Jun Wu would know that Xie Lian doesn't want the human array broken, so he's not going to go back on his word. He's not going to go back on his thoughts, so he'd be tricking Xie Lian, and it would just torture Xie Lian even more. And it's just this cycle of torturing Xie Lian and making him feel bad about himself and making him feel like he's made all these wrong decisions and hate himself, that it's like Jun Wu is trying to perpetuate this cycle of Xie Lian just hating himself and feeling horrible because that's how Jun Wu feels inside. And Jun Wu wants someone to understand him like no one else. So he's trying to make Xie Lian as miserable as him so that they can commiserate together. And God, it was so amazing when all of a sudden Hua Chong, who needs to stay out of this to stay undetected, is like, no, I'm not going to let Xie Lian get pushed into this cycle by you anymore. Like, that's enough. Let's stop. Shall we? I love that he's like, move your hand. Like, get the fudge away from a man. Like you've done enough. I can't stand anymore. And then Jun Wu, for Jun Wu to say, you dared to have an affair with the Ghost King under my eyes. What audacity. I'm like, you caught them in bed together like a volume ago. What are you talking about? You knew that Xie Lian and Hua Chong have had an affair this whole time. You've known. Like, why are you acting so dumb about it? And Hua Chong is like, take a look in the mirror. Do you have the right to say anything? I'm like, oh my God, the audacity. I love that in the English translation, the line, Rong does not call Hua Chong an effer in the English translation, but I do love in the English version, it says, I went back and read those chapters before coming to this because I needed to process again because I was reading so fast and like everything was, my brain couldn't catch up. But I love that the book says, Rong, his face changed a rainbow of colors as he was terrified of Hua Chong. Someone, I think it was, who was it someone in the Discord shared a picture, maybe it was Pancake, shared a meme, and it described Rong as a homophobic homosexual, which seems very accurate. And I like Rong having the rainbow of colors. Like, he doesn't want to acknowledge Rong having this, like, amazing moment, but he's like, how'd you get up here? You know? And Xie Lian saying, okay, Lan Shanchu, get out of here. Get out of here now. Do not let Jun Wu tempt you any longer. But he goes after Qi-Rong, and Guzi is like, don't kill my dad. And Qi-Rong is like, he's not even your dad anymore. Your dad's possessed. But it's like, does Guzi understand that it's not his dad anymore? Or is he acknowledging Qi-Rong as his father? Which is messed up. All kinds of messed up. But at this point, it's like, what? Like, what do you do? And then Qi-Rong, of course, is like, oh, I'll eat this kid's guts up and devour him. And Lan Chanshu is like, isn't he your son? He protected you. How are you doing this? And then in the English translation, Qi-Rong is like, oh, he's a cheap son. I'll just sire another. And I'm like, Qi-Rong is not siring any children. Qi-Rong, there is no woman alive that would get with Qi-Rong, right? Can we all agree on that? Can we all agree on that? There is no woman that would have anything to do with Qi-Rong. Absolutely not. No. And honestly, I don't think Qi-Rong would have anything to do with another woman, to be clear. So I'm like, what? And then Jun Wu, he's just like, if that's the case. And it took me a while to figure out what Jun Wu was saying, because I was like, what? That seems to come out of nowhere. But what Jun Wu was saying is, you know what? If my son, my little son, my prodigy, my little protege, Xie Lian, isn't going to do what daddy says, and if he's not going to be by my side, and if he's not going to be with me, and if you all aren't going to be my friends anymore, and if none of you are going to do what I ask you to, and you're going to out me to the world again, then I'll just destroy everything and start all over. We'll just start a third round. Like, that's literally what he's decided. He's like, I'm just going to burn the heavenly capital, destroy all of them, use their ashes to lay a new foundation, and I'll just start again if no one will help me. And it's like Jun Wu has created this impossible scenario for anyone to want to help him. Now, we don't know about Mu Qing. We don't know if Mu Qing agreed to help him. We know Ling Wen's still on his side, wherever she's the Daruma doll, so she's safe, so. I keep forgetting Hua Chong has turned her into a Daruma doll because we've had so many Daruma dolls. Hua Chong has just made a collection as we go. But I forget that Ling Wen is one now. So he's just like, we're just going to burn everything down and start all over again. And it's terrifying. It's such an amazing contrast that we had, volumes 1 through 4, I would argue, like, the Heavenly Realm was this pristine, heavenly, beautiful, posh place. And then volumes 5 and 6, you start to see, like, it's all on the downhill when you start to realize how corrupt it actually is. And then this volume is just tearing it completely apart. It's completely a realm of fire. It's like, I was expecting them at first in the Divine Statue to go to the Ghost Realm instead of the Blackwater Demon Layer. The Blackwater Demon Layer makes all the sense. That was the better choice. But at first I thought they were going to hide out in the Ghost Realm, and there was going to be something where, like, Jun Wu couldn't get into the Ghost Realm because Hua Chong had made it to where he couldn't get there. I assumed that because Hua Chong had made it a safe haven. I assumed that was the case. But the Demon Layer makes much more sense at Blackwater. But I thought it was going to be this nice comparison and contrast where you started out having, like, the Heavenly Realm be this beautiful posh place, and the Ghost Realm was like this seedy underbelly. And then it flips to where the Heavenly Realm is now this fiery hell, and the Ghost Realm looks tame by comparison. Which could still happen, right? Which could still happen. So not going to throw that out, but Xie Lian's just like, what do we do? And he tells Lan Chanshu to go and break everybody out, get them out so we can escape somehow. And I love that Lan Chanshu says, yes, master. Like, for a second, he acknowledges Xie Lian as the Goshi. And it's like, oh. And maybe not even as Goshi, but as the emperor himself. Like would Xie Lian become the emperor? No, I don't think so. I think after all this is said and done, whatever happens with Jun Wu, I'm like, I feel like Xie Lian would not become the emperor because it's the last thing he wants. I feel like I want him and Hua Chong to go have a new Puchi shrine somewhere and just hang out with one another in their own little paradise manor. I want that by the end of the story, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, and then the silver butterflies. I like that the novel, the English version, like when Jun Wu breaks free of the butterflies, it says literally he broke out of the silver chrysalis. And I'm like, it's crazy. And so Qi-Rong's just bouncing around screeching, and Feng Xin like looks for Zhan Lan. I feel for him. I'm like, I want him to find his ghostly lady, because I think he had decided by that point that he wants to go with her, that he wants to choose her. And then At first, I thought that this massive thing rising up over the heavenly capital, I thought it was like a face of Jun Wu. I thought this was like Majora's Mask from Legend of Zelda. I thought it was like this ominous, imposing figure of Jun Wu that was gonna like crush them all, and Jun Wu was gonna become like Ursula rising from the Little Mermaid, which kind of happens, and just rises up being like, whoa, ha, 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 ha. But no, Hua Chong, bless him, gets that giant divine statue. He fixes it right as rain and gets the divine statue from Mount Tonglu to come up on the wings of silver butterflies and all the blessing lanterns. The romance of this. That begs a big question, right? That begs a big question at this point of being like, I feel like the last part of this story is going to be Hua Chong and Xie Lian versus Jun Wu. We haven't outright seen Hua Chong fight Jun Wu. It's always been the two of them working together, which is fine, but it's like Hua Chong is so powerful that they seem like the only one whose power truly rivals Jun Wu's, unless Xie Lian gets the curse shackles off. So I don't know how that's going to happen, but I'm like, I want Xie Lian to get the curse shackles off, because I think that if he did, him and Hua Chong together could overpower and destroy Jun Wu. I think that could happen, if that's what ends up having to happen. Because there's a part of me that's like, I don't think Xie Lian necessarily wants to destroy Jun Wu, but I think he's like, what else can we do with him? Like, what can we do at this point? He's so out of control, right? How do we stop him? Unless we, like, make Jun Wu a Daruma doll and give him to the Goshi and be like, you take care of him. The Goshi's like, I guess we can play cards with him on the table. You know? We'll talk about the Goshi in this, because I love the Goshi. I love Mei Nanqing. But I feel like the final battle has to be Jun Wu versus Hua Chong, and Hua Chong's going to stand up for Xie Lian and be like, I'll battle for you. And then Xie Lian's going to be like, no, boo. We fight together. And they, like, hold hands, and Jun Wu can't stand it, because it's like the ultimate Care Bear stare of Hua Chong and Xie Lian together fighting him, and he's all alone. I don't know. And maybe somehow the three faces on his face will have something to do with it. The mountain spirits will come. I don't know. I don't know how we're resolving this, but MXTX has been very intentionally careful to have Hua Chong on the sidelines, helping Xie Lian power up the divine statue, being there for Xie Lian to make out with, to get spiritual powers, but has been very careful to not have a situation where Jun Wu and Hua Chong are fighting outright. Like, they've been at each other's throats. Hua Chong got really close to it with the sword, with the scimitar up against him. But Hua Chong has made a point not to fight him, because I think that Hua Chong knows that Jun Wu is not going down easily, and it was trying not to make a massacre out of the heavenly realm, which ended up happening anyway. So I don't know. I feel like Volume 8 is going to be these three battling one another close range rather than the giant battle we just saw. MXTX is like, let's get the giant, schlocky, like, Voltron, Megatron battles out of the way now, and Volume 8 is going to be a lot more small scale, a lot more enclosed, right? Let's just get the crazy action out of the way. Next volume is going to be all this intimate stuff, but I don't know. I didn't expect to see a fiery giant this episode either, battling Xie Lian's divine statue above the blackwater layer, so I didn't expect that at all. So who knows what's going to happen in the next chapter set, much less Volume 8. Who knows? So, I don't even know. But yeah, His Highness is so big. And then chapter 224 and 225, the battle, fiery demonic fortress in the sky. I think my mind was having so much trouble with these chapters because it was just a mouthful to say fiery demonic giant and fiery demonic fortress. Like every other sentence, I was like, blah, blah, blah. How now, brown cow? Like every 5 seconds. And then I like that, you know, everybody's just like, they suddenly realize Hua Chong's there, but there's no time to really think too much about it. And Feng Xin finally screams out for Zhanlan, but she doesn't come, right? And so Qi Rong is sneaking around and hiding around the streets, and Lan Zhongqu's like, what the fudge? And then I like Qi Rong scuttling behind Ju, being like, garbage, trash! It's like pot calling the kettle black, right? And then there's this white clad martial god with his black aura looking terrifying. And Xie Lian and Rong catches on fire. And then Chun Yijin shows up. Chun Yijin, MVP of this chapter set, carrying Yin Yu's corpse on his back, being like, I'm not going to leave him behind. I don't know yet if Yin Yu is going to stay dead, or if they're going to become a ghost, or if they're going to get revived. The only way they can get revived is if we get the cursed shackle back from Jun Wu, so that has to happen next volume at some point, I guess. Because I refuse to believe that Yin Yu and Chun Yijin are not going to get reunited. I refuse to believe that. Absolutely not. MXTX, you would not be that cruel. I hope you would not be that cruel. So, but I just love Chun Yijin in this, where Chun Yijin taking initiative and thinking what to do is like such a revelation, because we've only seen Chun Yijin like just jump into battle and jump into the fray. But here he thinks of a strategy. He's considerate and kind for Yin Yu. Fluffy Child! Goshi calls him Fluffy Child, and that's the best little nickname for him. He's like, Fluffy Child. Like, just my heart sings for this. But yeah. And then that's when Xie Lian like grabs Hua Chong. He's like, I gotta get spiritual powers. Again, it's almost like at this point, the Goshi has pointed out, as well as Mu Qing, that you don't need to make out with him to get the spiritual powers. But Xie Lian's like, it's almost as if in this moment, Xie Lian doesn't know what's going to happen next. And he's like, Hua Chong, if I don't see you for a while, I'm going to get this big giant kiss out of you, and it's going to last me a while, so let's do this. And it's like, I freaking love it to pieces. And then, of course, Lan Chan Shu's like, what are you doing behind my back? And I love that Xie Lian treats it like, in the English version, it's a lot more pronounced, but he's like, oh my god, this child has seen too much. It almost feels like Xie Lian as a parent to Lan Chan Shu. He's adopted Lan Chan Shu alongside Ban Yu and alongside Long Ying. He's adopted Lan Chan Shu as well as his teenage son. And he's just like, I didn't want my kid to see me making out with daddy. It's like, I love that Xie Lian is more concerned about just, he doesn't want Lan Chan Shu to see him making out with an adult, right? Understandable, right? Understandable. It's like, Lan Chan Shu's like the kid being like, ew, mom and dad, quit kissing. It's like, love it. And then the statue gets to be flying. I want to see this animated so badly, but I don't know how they're going to do it justice. I don't know how. And so, Pei Ming, Ban Yu, Pei Su, Rong Guang, Shanji, all of them, they were fighting to the death the last time we saw them. But now, if they're not on the back or on the fiery giant statue that is Jun Wu, where are they? Did they fall off? What happened? Where are they at? We don't know. That's the big question, right? That is the big question. We don't know for sure. And then the Goshi shows up, the Goshi being there. I love that the Goshi is riding along, and they're just like, they basically are the hype person for Xie Lian, but then they're also like trying to be like, what's going on? What's happening? Like, oh, Fluffy Child, what are you doing? I just love that people are like, Xie Lian? Like, I didn't know. I forget he was a martial god. I thought he was just a scrap collector. And Goshi is like, well, how dare you not think that way about my little protege? Like, he's more than just a scrap collector. And of course he's a martial god. And Xie Lian's like having a secondhand embarrassment. He's like, oh my god, Goshi, stop. It was so cute. I loved it. I loved it. I'm wondering if the Goshi is going to go along with Hua Chong and Xie Lian to fight Jun Wu at the royal capital. A part of me doesn't think so, because he said himself he's not a fighter. The Goshi's like, I'm not really a fighter. I'm more of a thinker. I'm more of a philosopher. I'm not really a combatant. I'm not a martial god. So I feel like if anything, the Goshi will sit back and then will show up like after the battle's over with to either handle the remnants of Jun Wu, whatever that entails, or he could even show up at the last minute and the Goshi's like, maybe the Goshi will sacrifice himself, being like, put me and Jun Wu together in a sealed tomb and we'll work it out, you know? I do kind of ship Mainian. After the last chapter said, I definitely ship Mainian Qing and Jun Wu together. I want them to make amends and make up. They're both kind of crazy, so it fits. Maybe they'll end up, you know, Modao Zushi style in a tomb together. Who knows? Who knows if that'll happen? Who knows? We'll see what ends up going on with that. So, But yeah, I love that this giant battle is happening and the people in the mortal realm don't even know. They just, it looks like a comet in the sky, like a white star shooting through the sky and like a red comet falling behind. And the kids are like, oh, how pretty. I am glad that the mortal realm isn't like in a frenzy because they have no clue what's going on, because then it could be problematic. But next chapter said if Jun Wu goes to the royal capital, then it could be a problem. Because like if Jun Wu shows up at the royal capital in this giant flaming fortress, the humans are gonna freak out. So what do we do about that, right? What do we do about that? And then I love that the Goshi gets on to the heavenly officials being like, why aren't you doing your jobs? You guys all have spiritual power. Why are you standing there gawking? Like, do something. Like, why is it taking you this long to be proactive? I love it. And I love the idea that a lot of these heavenly officials had gotten complacent just being in the heavenly realm and not doing anything. And now the Goshi's like, you have more power than mere mortals. Like, do something with it. Help him out. And it's like, going back to this idea that the heavenly officials weren't doing their jobs. They were just kind of complacent in their power and status. And instead they weren't using that power and status for the betterment of people around them. I'm like, get back to the basics, MXTX. Getting back to the basics. I love it. So there's about 800 on the divine statue. And Hua Chong has them go down into the layer of the blackwater. And it's such an insane visual, like just the idea of this seemingly floating island that the heavenly realm has been. Now it's on fire, like this big, like boss battle Super Mario Brothers fortress. Like it's like Bowser's castle looming towards them. And then they suddenly are over the blackwater, which is such good writing, because one, you know that if you get down into the blackwater, you're going to keep sinking, so that's a mechanism. But it definitely felt like this felt like the third act of a superhero movie, where a lot of modern superhero movies, like the third act is, oh no, we've gone to battle it out on this undisclosed location where there's no living souls around, so the collateral damage will be at a minimum. Haha. Like that's what it felt like, right? Which is good, because we don't need to get moral collateral damage involved, but and the stakes are still there, because if they don't succeed, Jun Wu's going to destroy all of humanity, because he's like, F this place. And so there are stakes there, but it's nice that there's not that added pressure of there being humans around that would be in danger, right? And the fact that it's a blackwater. And their layer, the fact that the bone dragons get to come back up. And I like that Xie Lian before is like, oh, well, I was like petting the bone dragons earlier, like the last time we were here, and they were all like gentle and nice. And Hua Chong's like, yeah, that's just because I was here, gay. And I love that he makes the bone dragons like work to his advantage. And there's a note, it's not in the English translation, but MXTX's note, the Blackwater owes Hua Chong a huge debt, a very poor Supreme. He's severely dragged down by the income average of the entire Supreme rank, although there's only 3, but it's not all owed from eating too much. So, like, basically Hua Chong is like, I've been paying for this guy's expenses while he's been the Earthmaster this entire time. He owes me a lot. Ah! I love it! I love it. It's like Hua Chong and Heshan were like college roommates, and Hua Chong just bought his lunch every day. And Heshan's like, oh, bro, I'll get back to you at some point. I'll pay you back. And Hua Chong's like, oh, don't worry, bro. I'll get it later. And now it's later. And he's like, hey, remember all those meals I bought for you? Remember that like $1,000 or so that you owe me? Well, I just love it. I love that Heshan's like, yeah, I owe that, I guess. And what's so funny about all of this is that Heshan owes all this debt, whereas the Windmaster, when they were the martial god, was like just making it rain, like, oh, I'll pay off all debts. I really would have liked Heshan to have had Shi Qingshang as his sugar daddy, but then you had to go decapitate his brother, and that couldn't happen. So maybe it'll happen again. Maybe in the future, once Volume 8's contents are wrapping up, maybe Shi Qingshang can somehow become a sugar daddy for Heshan. I don't know. They're pretty penniless right now. They're homeless and a beggar, but who knows what could happen in these next chapters? Who knows, right? Who even knows? I don't know. I don't know if Xie Qingchong would ascend if they do something great. Is there a possibility that they could do something amazing during the royal capital? Could Xie Qingchong do something amazing and ascend on their own? I don't know. That's very interesting because the Goshi talked about in previous chapters that Xie Wudu was always destined to ascend, and that's kind of why they were targeted. But then they ended up they basically passed on the route of ascension from Heshan to his brother. And the way the Goshi talked as if Xie Qingchong was never going to ascend. I don't know. The way they talked about it in the chapters prior, it seemed like the Wind Master was never originally going to ascend. That was never on the table, and Xie Wudu just kind of made that a reality. So could it be possible in the next volume? I don't think it's happening next chapter set. I think next chapter set's going to set the stage, and then volume 8's going to happen. But could it be possible that Xie Qingchong ascends because they've helped out the humans with the human array? Maybe. If that's the case, I would love Xie Qingchong to become a sugar daddy for Heshan. That would be amazing. Support my Beef Leaf ship. But I'm not holding out hope because it's MXTX and we only got one volume to go. That's the one thing about MXTX. For Modao Zushi, usually the main couple is going to have a happy ending. And I have a feeling that Xie Lian and Hua Chong are going to have a happy ending. The thing about MXTX, though, is that they are not afraid to have all of the side characters not have happy endings, right? That's like, I'm not going to spoil Modao Zushi if you've not read it, but there are a lot of characters in Modao Zushi besides the main couple that do not have great endings. They have either bittersweet endings or it's just sad and you're like, oh, that sucks. So do I think that MXTX would leave some of these characters in despair? I do, which makes me really excited about the ending to know where it's all going to go. That's going to be fascinating. So Beef Leaf might still be Beef Leaf, Yin Yu, and Chan Yijin. They might end up in tragedy. We won't know till next volume, right? But so chapter 225, we get that the fiery demonic fortress that was the heavenly capital, and Xie Lian's like, "Oh, we struck it. It's falling apart. What's happening?" And then it becomes this giant. And I love the idea that the heavenly officials are immediately like, they are so terrified because why wouldn't they be? It's the heavenly capital made into a fighting giant. And it seemed like Hua Chong knew this was going to happen. Hua Chong was like, yeah, you're going to have to fight him. So I'm curious, now that we know that Hua Chong has been imbued with some of the negative energy from the kiln that was originally let off by Jun Wu, does Hua Chong have like some inkling of foresight related to Jun Wu? Is that possible? Or was he just like, nah, this... Or while Hua Chong was investigating the heavenly realm, did he... You know what? If all this has been in place from the start and Heshan has been running around puppeteering and finding out information for him, it is very likely that all these hundreds of years, Hua Chong, even though he didn't fully know the story about Jun Wu and the Prince of Wuyong and all that business, it is very possible that Heshan could have been like, hey, there's some weird like schematic stuff happening here that, you know, if you just rearrange things, it could become a giant Voltron. And Hua Chong's like, noted. So it could be like when he was telling Xie Lian he was going to have to fight, that he kind of already saw this coming, but maybe not. Maybe it was just something he was just like, you're going to have to fight him, Jun Wu, one way or another. He just didn't know it was going to become this giant fiery giant. We can't know for sure, right? And then Xie Lian's like, hang on, we can't sink into the black waters. And Chan Yijin, I love Chan Yijin yells, you don't have a weapon. You need a weapon. And the heavenly officials are like, you've got to fight with a weapon. And Xie Lian's like, I'm trying to think back. And I love that Rui gets over him being like, hey, I'll help you. And I love Xie Lian's like, thank you, but you're too small. Precious. Precious. And that's when Hua Chong is like, well, use this for now. I love Heshan's like, please don't use my bone dragons. And Hua Chong's like, owe me money. And he's like, damn it. And again, the whip. Now, to be fair, Hua Chong fashioned the whip, not Xie Lian. And it was a whip that is... now, do I see Heshan using a whip? Oh, hell yes. Also, the idea of Heshan, if you're going to go Beef Leaf again, Heshan with the whip is like ka-cha, and it makes like a whipping sound, also makes like a rush of wind, ties to the Wind Master. could see that being a connection. I'm all for that. Do I think Hua Chong would use a whip? I don't think so. I think that's more of a Heshan mechanism, because now that I think about it, if we're talking about like the last thing Hua Chong would want to do is cause harm to Xie Lian. So I'm just going to say, based on Xie Lian and the motif of self-harm that Hua Chong has tried to get Xie Lian out of, they're not going to be like Wang Shen and Mo Dao Zushi. Wang Shen and Mo Dao Zushi are some kinky bitches, and they'd be into the BDSM and all that stuff, would be into it. Hua Chong, knowing that Xie Lian has suffered and has an issue with self-harm, I think the last thing he'd want to do would be to put Xie Lian in a position of uncomfortability, and where they're uncomfortable and not happy with themselves. And he'd be like, no, let's not do that. I feel like, believe it or not, Hua Chong, for being the supreme demon ghost king, would be like the most caring and gentle with Xie Lian, because that's what Xie Lian needs. And so I'm fine with that. I'm fine with the comfort couple. I find that nice. We've got Wang Shen to be the kinky bitches, and then Hua Lian can be just like the soft, cuddly, like comfort couple. I'm all for that. So even though I like to make the joke about the kink and the bone whip, I think that's definitely a Heshan thing. And Jun Wu and Hua Chong's just like borrowing this to use against Jun Wu. So yeah, and then the Goshi stands up for Xie Lian, which is really cute. And they just like try to sink Jun Wu. And I do think it is worth noting, I feel bad for Jun Wu in a lot of ways. I think he's toxic to the core, and he's not good for Xie Lian at all, and he needs to leave Xie Lian alone. But I do feel bad for him. Because like the moment that they're all saying like, hurry up and sink him, and they're chanting to sink him to the bottom of the ocean, even though he's doing these horrible things, the idea that Jun Wu is just sitting there by himself and just staring up at them being like, you're like everybody else. No one likes me. I'm all alone. Like, there is something sad about that. And like, he's just so self-destructive at this point that I don't want Jun Wu to be killed necessarily. I don't even know if he can be. But I would rather him like be like defeated and then given to the Goshi and be like, look, if you guys need to go off together and like sort things out, how about you do that? Right? How about you guys go off together, get a private island to yourselves, sort things out, and just live out the rest of your days there. Can you all do that? Can this happen? I want that to happen. I don't want Jun Wu to get destroyed, because I do feel bad for him. And I feel like Xie Lian, I don't think Xie Lian wants to kill him either. Hua Chong! Yeah, Hua Chong's like, hate him, get him out of here, bye. But I don't feel like Xie Lian wants to kill Jun Wu, and I feel like Jun Wu doesn't need to die necessarily. He just needs to go and have the same healing experience that Xie Lian has had by being with Hua Chong, and he can maybe do that with Mei Nianqing. They can go play cards! Jun Wu and Mei Nianqing's been playing cards with paper dolls the last 800 years. Let Jun Wu and Mei Nianqing go off to an island together and play cards the rest of their days and make out. Let them do that. Let them do that, right? And then the three friends will be there too. They can all have a great time. Just a little quintet together. I feel bad for the three faces that would have to see them make out. How would that even work? I don't even know. Ew. But I don't want to think about it, but I want them to be together, right? Right? And if you don't ship Mei Nianqing and Jun Wu romantically or sexually, then they can just platonically be besties on the island playing cards together. I see nothing wrong with that. Let's have that be the ending. Let that be the therapy that they need, right? In any case, the statue like bubbles up to the surface, steam everywhere. It's just a hot mess. And then I love the Goshi saying, "Fluffy child, what are you doing? Don't toss a corpse at me. What are you doing?" I love that I love one, that Qi Ying saw the Goshi as someone he could throw Yin Yu at. He's like, you seem responsible. Huh. Right? That perception. But then also Qi Ying like just scrambling around the arm of this fiery giant, and it like trying to swat him like a bug, and then him getting into the bone dragon to try to crush and fight Jun Wu. I love that Qi Ying was like, don't worry, Xie Lian, I'll help you. I'll be a weapon if you can't find a sword. It's so cute. I'm glad he's okay. They hint, even though he's swatted away by Jun Wu and like crashed across the sea and the bone dragons are all scattered about, I am glad that Chan Yixin seems like he's okay. And the bone dragons saved themselves in the end. I almost was waiting for like Heshan or like Yin Yu's. I was really hoping, and I was getting all like, you know, in my head with this theory. I was really hoping that Yin Yu would like his little ghost spirit would come up and save Xie Ying, but it's still in the curse shackle, so that's not happening. But I thought Heshan or somebody would save him, and it ends up being the bone dragon. But it said all he needs is some quiet nurturing. Well, that gives me hope that maybe Xie Ying will end up being nurtured by Yin Yu if we can get his spirit rescued from the curse shackle. Whether he's a ghost or alive, whatever the case may be, maybe Yin Yu can take Chang Yijin in and heal him up somewhere else and give him that nurturing that he needs. I'm just saying, there better be some damn fan fiction about it if it's not in the actual story. But yeah, so Huachong is like, I like that Xie Lian's like, we've like destroyed Heshan's bone dragons. Is that okay? And Huachong's like, no, it's fine. Don't worry. And Xie Lian's like, how much money does he owe you? Like, what? And then that's when the heavenly officials are like, wow, Xie Ying, he was so brave. And Xie Lian's like, you guys all like gave him the cold shoulder and were horrible to him for years. But now you see him like act brave and you're suddenly like he didn't do it to save you. He did it just because that's Xie Ying's resolve. That's how he is as a person. He's going to help no matter what. And I'm glad that other heavenly officials at least have recognized Chang Yijin for the brave person that he is. But I'm with Xie Lian. I'm like, you guys should have known that a long time ago. So yeah, Jun Wu has decided, you know what? If I can't tempt Xie Lian's friends, if I can't torture Xie Lian, and if I can't successfully fight him without just being annoying, then I'm just going to go there and do it myself. He just Thanos style decided he's going to zip over to the heavenly capital, or to the royal capital. So what do? I think that the next set of chapters is going to set the stage. I think we've got to decide, okay, what players are going to the royal capital to help out Shi Qingshang and help stop Jun Wu from disrupting the array. And they've got to think quickly, because they've got to go quickly. I'm sure Huachong has a way to get there quickly too, right? I'm sure that Huachong has a way to shorten the distance as well. But is it just going to be Xie Lian and Huachong? Is it just going to be them? Is the Goshi going to go? Is Feng Xin and Mu Qin going to go? Are the heavenly officials going to stand around and do nothing? Or are they just going to give them all their spiritual power and let them go fight Jun Wu themselves? I feel like next chapter set is going to set the stage. And then I actually really like this because I feel like we had this big schlocky battle this chapter set, which you would expect, right, at the climax. But I don't think this is going to be the climax. No. I'm going to compare it to Modao Zushi. And so there are going to be a little bit of Modao Zushi spoilers for the next minute or so. So if you don't want Modao Zushi spoilers, just skip ahead a minute. Okay? But in Modao Zushi, you had the big battle on the mountain with all of the corpses and everything, the zombies. And then the climax of all climaxes was at the temple at the end, but it was very small scale. Like you had this big giant mountain battle with corpses and all the other, you know, designated officials, which are currently heavenly official equivalents here. You had all them fighting, and it was this big battle, and it was bloody and chaotic and kind of intense, like this was. But then the climax of the series was very small scale, like in the temple. And even though Heaven Official's Blessing is on a much larger scale than Modao Zushi is, like a much bigger scale, I feel like we've gone from this giant battle, like on the mountain in Modao Zushi, to it's going to be at the royal capital, like the temple in Modao Zushi. It's going to be much more small scale, and that's going to be the climax. That's going to be us dealing with Jun Wu. And then the rest of the novel is going to be settling all the loose ends. I'm fine with that. As long as I get answers and we get Xie Lian and Huachong happy and canoodling at the end of this, I'm happy with this. So, we'll see. Next chapter set is going to be our last chapter set of Volume 7. I cannot believe, as my dog is like, give me lunch. I cannot believe that we're at the end of Volume 7 already. It blows my mind. And we have just the beginning of 2024 to get into Volume 8 and finish it. What the fudge? So with that being said, I'm excited for next week. We'll see if we have a Manhwa chapter or not. I don't know if we will or not, but we'll see. If we do, I'll happily read it. But if not, we'll save it for volume 8. But in the meantime, I hope you all enjoyed this reaction discussion. These chapters were insane. And I'm so curious to know what's going to happen next. So in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'll be back very soon with more Heaven Officials Blessing. Bye.